People don't realize what talent and coordination and teamwork it takes from such a large variety of people for us to be able to provide the care our patients need.
Mrs. Nally, everything went very well. He's back in the recovery room. He's not quite awake from the anesthetic, but his heart and lungs and kidneys, everything else are okay.
All of these hours of work come together at a moment like that.
To bring together the people and resources that support the efforts of more than 90 hospitals and an expanding health services network, Humana Incorporated decided in 1981 to build a new corporate headquarters in Louisville, Kentucky. The growing company's need for a building was not unusual, but their approach to building it was. From the beginning, the choices Humana made were destined to set their building apart.
I would expect us to build a building that's excellent wherever we build it, but the opportunity to cause a community to set its sights a little higher is what excites me.
There are very few companies that have an intersection in their history where corporate need for a building coincided with a desire to create something of great architectural significance, so that was our adventure.
It must be a good building. It must solve the practical and functional requirements of the client. It must be built within the financial resources of the client. It must, in the end, create excitement and capture the imagination of the public. In January of 1982, Humana challenged 5 architects to design such a building in an architectural competition.
I waited till I got home, and then I started working in a sketchbook, which I keep all the time with me, and started making very cartoon-like drawings of the building, which actually in the end, surprisingly enough, were pretty close to what we ended up with.
On the 24th of March, the drawings and the models came into Louisville within hours and sometimes even minutes of each other, and it was a sensory overload.
Then we did a lot of staff work here in terms of technical and logistical evaluation, but then the final analysis had to be a personal reaction, and that is, which is the most significant piece of architecture, which one evokes and relates best to Louisville.
I think of great vision, one of our great architects who created it and will work with to build it, Mr. Michael Graves of Pennsylvania.
Mr. Graves has a very controversial design. You either love it or you just cannot stand to look at it. As a stone contractor, I'm in love with it. And it's beautiful. It's all stone. It's going to be something that'll be a showpiece.
I think Graves took seriously what we asked all the architects to do. He wanted the building to be right for the place in which it stood.
Louisville started out as a river city, and that orientation of the river has always been significant. And I thought, if I can do anything here, is to take advantage of the river on one side and this extraordinary light on the other, looking back at the city itself. It seemed to me an extraordinary chance to have a kind of roof terrace supported by a great armature of steel that is certainly a metaphor of the crossings of the river.
The difficulties with that site would be the fact that one has to identify with the Victorian cast iron 5- and 6-story storefronts that are along Main, and then adjacent to that an enormous bank that's nearly 40 stories.
And so what Michael did with his particular solution was to essentially give the building a base which related to the scale of Main Street. The columns that go up stop close to the same height as those buildings on Main Street.
If you look at Main Street to the west, where the cast iron buildings kind of snuggle up to the street, they define its edges. We decided to do that too, and we decided that was the best. Humana then wanted to give something back to the city, so we carved the loggia out of that, we carved the waterfall and the front space out.
We're talking about a fountain that is approximately 120 feet wide, and water that falls in 6 cascading sections. It not only deals with water, but it also deals with the city's beginnings at the Falls of the Ohio. Michael's building was the only one that could be built just in Louisville.
The winning design, massive yet intricate, rich in color and resonant with echoes from the past, was an exciting beginning. But it would take 3 years for Humana, the architects, and the construction contractors to bring the building to life.
The major thing we've been devoting our time to is taking an idea, because that's all that a competition really can be, and making it a real building.
Well, as far as the granite color was concerned, we all had, some questions about how it would all come together, because you can't draw and color enough to try and replicate exactly how a natural material will look. And there was a certain amount of nervousness about that, because, as I say, it is all cast in stone.
For this detail, I don't think just polishing or not polishing is going to give you quite enough zip.
I didn't mean this to be polished. I meant textured something.
The meeting that we're going to have upstairs with the structural engineers, we're going to talk about the support of the porch on the 24th floor. The engineer has a number of ideas about how it should be done, but there's always a series of discussions.
I want you to think of that in terms of trellis, okay? I want you to think of that in terms, if you will, of really structural members that are doing work for us. And that is picking that high ground up so that it doesn't displace from the building.
Right now we are in the end of the design development stage. Then the third phase is the contract documents, which are those drawings and specifications that a contractor needs to build the building.
Our firm was joined with Graves as an associateship. We think that we have enough information in our heads from past experiences where we can translate what he's trying to do into something that can be built. This is the cornice right here. Those are full-size drawings which may never be seen on the working drawings, but they are our tools to see how it's going to be put together. When I work this way, I can feel the weight in the stone itself. Then we reduce it so it makes sense on a sheet. You can't issue these sheets, they're too big. So normally on a high-rise office building, I figure 50 drawings. On this project, we have 119, and that's because of the complexity of Michael's design.
There's the idea that artistic flair can't be meshed with reality, and that's not going to happen here. I think it's important to show that these things can be done with a reasonable budget and on time and so forth. We are tough to work for. Everyone says that. Not because we're mean people, but because we have a vision, and we're not going to let everyday problems get in the way of achieving our goal.
The people at Humana faced one of the major obstacles to their goals when they opened the granite bids.
Where we stand in budget, we've got to get about $4 million out, right?
Everybody is saying, almost without exception, if Humana could only go to 3 centimeter stone, it would be a completely different picture. But I don't know whether you want to even talk about that.
Finding a solution to their budget problem led Humana to Carrara, Italy, where a stone industry centuries old is also one of the most technologically advanced in the world. 2 Italian firms were able to supply the many granite colors the architect had chosen, from Scandinavia, India, Africa, Italy, and South America, as well as to cut and finish the blocks to the building's complex specifications.
From what I know, my family is in this business since 1492. Last week, when I saw the design, the first thing that I thought it was a Renaissance building. It has the same feeling.
Don't forget one problem, that sequence and colors are 2 things that we have to consider.
Where we have the gold dots, the surface, it gets ground 1/4 of an inch.
Yes.
But it will be smooth.
It'll be smooth like this, yes.
The job, it will give us nightmare, but that's what makes it exciting. I'm sure that before the end of the job, we have to invent so many things. I mean invent, that we have never done before. You have to understand, in our business, more difficult, more complicated it is, for us, more exciting it is.
Adjustments to the bid. We find that if we can make certain adjustments to your bid number that we've discussed, it's our intention to sign a contract with you on the project.
What you see now going up and the steel going up, that is a very real portrayal of what's going to happen now. It's a matter of people who are very good at their part of the construction business and doing their thing.
Iron workers, we're the cowboys of the air. Every morning when I go up there, you're able to look all over Louisville, and you know that place will be there when your kids get to be your age. And they'll say, my dad worked on the building. Putting up the steel on it was something to be proud of.
Just like Michael Graves had this idea and conceived it, and then conceived the colors, we have to sit down and have the God-given gift to be able to conceive how you're going to build it.
With almost 32,000 individual pieces of stone to hang, the first challenge the stoneworkers faced was to get the slabs where they needed to be to install them.
When you have to, you come up with a way. You know, that's just all there is to it. And it was just amazing the different innovations these guys came up with. And these stones were huge. I mean, you're talking about stones 8-9 feet high, 5 feet wide, weigh 1,200–1,300 pounds apiece.
The project's fast-track schedule made coordination among the trades especially critical.
We argue a lot, an awful lot. A lot of fussing, cussing.
38% of the schedule away from us, and I originally planned on doing it on 2 shifts. So I'm in a real bind.
And then at the end of the day, we drank a lot of beer together. And people wouldn't have this attitude if they didn't take a little pride in what they stood. And they do.
We're in the home stretch. Thank goodness.
This is a very substantial color throughout this floor, and I have a feeling that it's going to affect
a lot.
Everything.
We're trying to tailor these floors to each department.
The valve to control all the height on the fountains and the amount of water coming through is behind this wall.
You know, when we were detailing it, I don't think we realized how this would come out. The workmanship on that marble right there is absolutely great. I never thought we would be able to do this.
Discuss with us the decisions that led to the ultimate construction of this tremendous headquarters building.
Seen anything like that in American architecture for a very, very long time. The kind of richness and care with which the building's being built and all of that teamwork is really paying off in the end.
makes any daring new statement. I think it makes architectural statements that have been with us for 3,000 or 4,000 years. However, somewhere in the middle of the last century, during the Industrial Revolution, we as a society got very excited about what the machine could do for us. And we now have not only built our buildings with machines, but we've made our buildings to look like machines that are ultimately alienating to our culture. Modern architecture as we know it, and especially those last 30 or 40 years, is a very small bleep on the scale that one might want to recognize historically. So this continues the humanistic attempts of architecture itself.
When you look at the print and it says, well, we're going to put greens and pinks and thermals and things like this together, you go, you know, what are we putting together here? But when you stand back and look at this building, even a lot of the people who were detractors in the beginning have come over and say, hey, you know, it don't look bad, does it?
I think the building has a certain complexity that is very invigorating, because I think people will look at the Humana Building, people who live in Louisville, and they'll walk down the street and the sun will be shining on it one way and they'll see it one way. They'll read the gold dots that punctuate the main body and they'll see the base and shadow, and the different colors will reflect and the building will seem like one thing to them. And I think the next day it'll seem like something else.
It's been a long time since a major downtown building has been built in which you can imagine people taking their children to see the lobby.
It's a building built to stay, to remain, for a long life.
It brings us together. It causes us to focus on who we are and what we're all about.
The building's not as important as the way we take care of people, but it says that in anything that we do it right.
And I would say that outside of your own family, your own business, and how you deal with those things in your life, the most important thing you might ever do, if you ever have the opportunity, is build a great building.
Whether you're designing roads or bridges, or whether you're doing some grand planning downtown, what do you settle for? If people really are interested in having something that's the best, rather than just good enough, then it makes an incredible difference in terms of the environment that we live in. That's a good part of the story of the building.